Yeah, here we are.
What's up, buddy?
Well, long time no see.
Let's just hope my internet connection stays up today. I will be buying redundancy. All right, so we're doing this show today because we wanted to introduce folks to a little bit of the philosophy behind Kilroy, as well as a little bit of what's possible in building in Kilroy, at least as it relates to AI. But why don't you quickly tell a little bit about what you think the best way to describe Kilroy is?
I knew you were going to do this to me. So I'll give you my stock answer to when somebody asks me, what is it? And then I'll tell you really what we're doing. So it's okay. The elephant with the three blind men, right? One guy feels a rope, one guy feels a tree trunk, and another guy thinks he's up against a barn wall because he can't really see the whole thing. And it's a big animal. So we've got this big animal, but what it fundamentally is a way for you to get rid of your dependence on centralized stuff and build an internet the way that you want to do it, right? So it's an application that runs on your desktop and allows you to pick what you see, who you talk to, how you interact with external services, down to even getting rid of the user interface on a centralized website or not having to talk to a big centralized AI like ChatGPT or Claude, or being able to put together your own services and monetize them for other people. So it's all about really taking the centralized internet that we've had enforced on us for the last 20 years and getting back to what it used to be, which was everybody's on their own platform. I don't know. How was that?
That was good. That was good. I mean, I think it goes way beyond that, but I think that's a core function of what it does. Absolutely. So, yeah, look, I mean, I think the decentralization piece is really critical. I think we've kind of identified the dangers of decentralized money pretty efficiently in this space, but we don't have decentralized user interfaces to crypto. And the dangers of centralized AI, to me, are an even greater threat to society. So I think this is really important as well. And Kilroy's peer-to-peer and swarming capability makes it so, like you said, anybody can build their own internet, but built into that platform is automation and integration and agentic AI with a visual creation platform that is also Turing complete. So I think there's a lot for people to understand about that.
I think one point that raced by there that it's worth going back to and talking about is the centralized AI piece. There are actually some things that you can do on your desktop with Kilroy and a whole swarm of AI agents that you couldn't begin to do with a web page talking to ChatGPT, for example. They're just things that you are not able to build or interact with as a normal end user, maybe as a computer scientist with ability to sit down and hack out your own code and glue the pieces together and use some of the sort of janky off-the-shelf open source pieces. You could make it do the same thing. But for a normal user who wants to sit down and be a power user of AI, it's night and day with Kilroy. I mean, there's things that you can build on your desktop that you could never try to do in a centralized service.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a ton of agent platforms out there and a ton of attempts at making AI more accessible and more powerful. But at the end of the day, the ability for our system to not only be easy to build in, but also to be able to connect and utilize resources is really powerful. For example, whether centralized AI or local AI, the ability to easily share LLMs with other people doesn't really exist in this world. There are blockchain solutions like Akash that allow you to utilize LLMs in servers that people make available. And there are obviously LLMs you can install on your machine, but with our swarming capability, it makes it so that you can utilize LLMs on server infrastructure without jumping through a ton of hoops. It's just the swarmed connections are together.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit, because we keep saying this word swarm and this peer-to-peer stuff, but we haven't really described what that means.
Sure.
Right? So in a normal interaction with an AI like ChatGPT, You're using a web browser as a client to talk to a server somewhere off in the cloud that's being run by OpenAI, right? And everything that you type on your screen is getting sent to that server, and it does some work and it sends you the answer back. And you can open two windows and talk to two different agents, but that's sort of the amount of interactivity that you get. Since Kilroy runs on your desktop, Kilroy can talk to OpenAI servers, it can talk to Google servers, it can talk to Microsoft servers, but it most importantly can talk to AI execution platforms that might be running locally on your own machine or on an old laptop on your desk or on a friend's computer, right? And the way that we do that is we have built into Kilroy this sort of seamless, transparent, completely user-friendly way to hook any number of machines together in a peer-to-peer cloud. If you've ever played with something like BitTorrent or back in the day Napster, where there was hundreds of computers that were all connected together, pushing information around between them, that's exactly what Kilroy does behind the scenes. If I'm in a swarm called, My Spiffy AI, and I give Brad that name, Brad can join the same swarm, My Spiffy AI, and now his agents can talk to my agents and vice versa. We can set up chat rooms, we can build applications on top of this shared infrastructure. And Kilroy handles all of the behind the scenes networking. You don't have to play with your firewall, you don't have to set up port forwarding, you don't have to have a static IP address, you don't have to use a domain name that you've got to get configured. They just talk. And so that actually becomes the mechanism that we use inside of Kilroy for everything to talk amongst itself. Now, Kilroy looks sort of like a high-level operating system to all these agents. Kilroy can start and stop the agents. It can set up communications pathways between them. It can run things on a periodic basis. It can integrate to the outside world with connections out to anything from as simple as a chat service like Telegram to a big backend database somewhere or to another AI in the cloud. So the whole point of the platform is let's get rid of all the hard stuff that makes AIs interacting with each other and with the real world painful. All the networking, all the configuration, all the tool configuration, all the parameters that have to be passed back and forth, all that stuff is hidden. And instead you just get some nice little blocks that you can drag around on the screen and hook up.
That's perfect. I love that. That's a great explanation. That's excellent.
So maybe we should look at some examples. What do you think?
Good. Yeah, let's do it. Unfortunately, it looks like Pine Tree is not working for us. It's a bummer.
So we're not getting Farcaster folks?
Nope. I'll just have to upload it.
Okay. Well, they'll just have to wonder what they're missing.
I think while you're getting that loaded up, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of philosophically why, I think one of the things that for people to understand, that's important for people to understand about why we are so concerned about centralized AI providers like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, whomever, is that we believe that all of compute will eventually be AI, or most of it. And so what that results in is that every aspect of your life is then going into whatever AI provider you choose, whether it's your local provider, or it's a service, a centralized service like OpenAI. And that also means that all the information, all the news, all the education that your children may be getting also is going to be coming through these AI providers. And at some point you have to ask yourself, who controls what is or is not in those models, and who controls what comes in and comes through and what we see and what we interact with, and who controls access to what you are putting into it. And so that's one of the biggest concerns we have. And I firmly believe that if you think that decentralized money is dangerous, centralized AI is, every dystopian movie and book that's ever been made about
centralized money, right?
Centralized money. Every dystopian book or movie about AI and some horrible corporate overlord or government overlord over controlling your life only comes through centralized AI. And so from my perspective, that's a really critical thing. And it's really, in my mind, more critical and dangerous than centralized money. So
now that you've scared everybody,
there you go.
I'll show them how not to be scared.
There you go. Excellent.
Empower the individual. All right. So what you're looking at right now is my desktop, And everything that you're going to see is running locally on my Mac Studio. The Kilroy application, the Kilroy user interface, the connection to a local AI platform, all the stuff that you're going to see initially is all locally provided on one machine. Now, I've got other machines here that are running other copies of Kilroy and doing things, and we've got some stuff that we're going to hook up to in the cloud. But for the most part, everything you're going to see for the next few minutes is all on my machine. And it's not even a very beefy Mac Studio. I think just about any normally modern, reasonably complete CPU stack, whether it's Windows or PC, Windows, Mac, or Linux, should be able to do what you're going to see for these little dog and pony shows here. All right, so Kilroy is, like I said, sort of an operating system for little applications. And if I go look in the sidebar here on Kilroy, we have lots of little applications that are running and doing things. Things that are related to AI, things that are related to crypto exchanges, RSS feeds, DeFi services like Beefy, interacting with web browsers and NFTs, automated trading platforms, RSS reader down here called MiniFlux, some decentralized AI for the old Spirit Swap project on Phantom, weather services, interacting with Twitter, embedded web widgets. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do that we've already built that you can drag into your copy of Kilroy and use. But what we want to start with, because it's one of the cooler toys that we have, is the AI platform. So I'm going to open up the editor that's built inside of this Kilroy AI application. And it's a drag and drop editor, big white expanse of nothingness. And so let's start with something that's pretty simple, which is just a little user interface to talk to, oops, did that wrong. A little user interface to talk to, we don't want to do this one. I have Llama 3 running on my desktop as a local LLM. And
well, I guess most people that watching would know what Ollama is, but
we'll talk about it for a second and how Ollama and Llama 3 work while I go find where I put my pipeline folder.
So Ollama is an inferencing engine, an inferencing platform. It's an open source platform, and it's one we're currently using for model inferencing. And what that means is when you send info to an AI, you're sending it to an inferencing engine that's interacting with the model. That's a really simple way to explain it. And Ollama can run locally on your own machine. So even if you don't have a beefy GPU-based machine, there are a ton of small models that you can utilize to utilize some functionality of AI via Ollama. There are a ton of others, LM Studio, other products that allow you to do this as well. We like Ollama. We like the way it functions. But one of the things in terms of small LLMs that's will be important in the future for Kilroy is that because we're able to distill the functionality of agents into small, tiny bit-sized pieces in these peer-to-peer networks and swarms, we actually have the ability to offload or to put a lot less work on the LLM in any given task that it's doing, so that we won't need as much processing power. And Chuck's favorite LLM is a really old and really small one called Llama 3, which by Meta, by the Facebook people. And he uses that for everything. And it's a small LLM that will run on a lot of different machines. And it's actually not even the most up-to-date LLM that Meta has, but it does a really good job.
It doesn't hallucinate, and it knows how to do math. Those are two things that are majorly in its favor. And if you've used any of the modern, newer LLMs that are online, ChatGPT or Claude or any of those, they go to great lengths to explain to you what you're doing. And for most of the tasks that we're doing, we know what we're asking the LLM to do. We don't need an explanation. We just need an answer. So you might say, hey, go get me a quote for a particular cryptocurrency. It doesn't need to come back and give you an explanation of what a cryptocurrency is and 5 paragraphs later show you what the current price is. We just want to see the current price, right? Or it might be, hey, go add these two numbers together, and if it's bigger than a certain amount, go do the next thing. The difference, and I think it's hard to see until you see some of the agents that we're going to show in just a minute, or some of the pipelines, is that what would normally be 2 or 3 pages worth of prompts into a Chat GPT like web interface to try to get it to go through multiple steps and do what you want are all 1 or 2 sentences prompts that are really small that let these little local LLMs do one little job and then hand off their work product through the swarm to the next one that does the next step in the job. And sometimes there may be tools or transformations in the middle of those steps, which is not something that you can do with the big centralized models very easily. Do some work, transform it with a tool, do some more work, send it off to a cloud service, get an answer back, do some more work. That pipeline style workflow is very challenging to do as an end user with the existing consumer focused interfaces. So, all right, so let's switch back to what's on the screen now that I've found the folder with the example in it that I wanted. So this is the visual editor for doing AI pipelines on top of Kilroy. Now, remember just a second ago when I showed you all the apps that were running in the sidebar of Kilroy. This is just an app on Kilroy. This editor, the building of the agents, the execution of the agents and letting them talk through the swarms is all just what's the equivalent of a third-party app on top of the Kilroy platform. So if you don't like this, you can build your own. If you want to change the way it behaves, you can modify it. But for right now, what we have is a palette full of some pre-built parts. We have agents, AI agents like this one here, which are front ends to talk to an external AI. It can be an external AI like ChatGPT. It can be a local AI like Llama 3 running underneath Ollama on your own local machine. Whatever you decide to configure in these parameters for the URL and the API key and the model name and the temperatures and other stuff like that is what the pipeline is going to be started with. And then we have other things for interacting with the pipelines. We have a chat agent, which is basically a user input screen. It looks like a terminal window. It looks like the web interface that you use to talk to a chat GPT. And then in the middle of the two is a swarm. This one is just creatively named Swarm. And its whole job is to take messages from the user input agent and pass them over to the other things in the swarm that are listening. In this case, there's only one. It's this AI agent over here. And what that's really going to do is whatever I type on the screen is going to go to the swarm, and from the swarm over to the agent. And it's going to look like a prompt string. It's going to do its work. It's going to give me its answer back to the swarm. And I'm going to listen to it and see it on the screen. These yellow labels on the edges are basically saying, who am I listening to, or who am I sending as? I'm sending as a thing called chat agent. The AI agent's listening to everything. Don't care. The AI agent is sending as a thing called AI agent. The user input field is just listening to everything. So let's go make that so you can see what it looks like in Kilroy and run it so that you can see how it interacts with the LLM in the background. So we're going to build that pipeline, and it's going to pop open some windows in Kilroy really quickly. This is the user interface for the interactive portion of the screen. And this is sort of a little debugging window to show you that the agent's really doing work in the background when it talks to the LLM. You can hide this, show it. It doesn't matter if it's on the screen. Normally, a user would just see an interactive window. But I'll just ask it, who is this? Now, it's going to take a while for it to start up the LLM because we've been talking and it's gone to sleep. But OK, here it is. It's Llama, right? This is who we're talking to. And tell me about chocolate cake, right? So that's the typical interaction that you would get with the LLM. And yes, it's barfed out a recipe for a chocolate cake. Here we go. And so in a couple of mouse clicks and drags in the editor, we built sort of the equivalent of a local chat GPT. I've got a window that I can type in, prompts go over to the AI, and I get answers back. In some more elaborate examples, you can ask it to create code and show it in another window where it's running. So you can do vibe coding on top of Kilroy. But this is the simple example of just one little interactive agent. What do you think about showing the integration with Telegram, Brad? I can show you.
Yeah, let's do that.
The simple one that we've got right now that I use every day is I have an RSS feed reader called MiniFlux that sits out on a server for me and goes through about 100 different RSS feeds in real time all the time. And so its job is to write into this swarm called Chuck MiniFlux Swarm. The server out there in the cloud also knows how to talk to Kilroy swarms, and it pushes the data in through a webhook that Kilroy makes available to it. And there's a swarm that's receiving a constant stream of RSS stories, right? Those feed into an AI agent whose prompt is this. So the system prompt says you're an agent that transforms RSS stories into markdown messages for Telegram. And it goes into some more detail about how to construct the Telegram markdown message. But if you look at the end result, what I end up with is an unending stream of scrolling RSS messages showing up in Telegram, which means even when I'm away from my desktop, I can pull out my phone. I can look at the current news that has been pulled in from the RSS feeds and pushed over to Telegram by my agents on my desktop. I'm not looking at some third-party news feed. I'm not looking at some, online news site like a CNN or a Reuters or whatever. This is all my news being picked out and selected and summarized by my AI and pushed out to my private Telegram channel.
And you can take it even further if you want. For example, my version of that pulls in a bunch of feeds from a lot of different places, and then I actually have it summarized into tweet size stories. So it goes in, it reads the article, it summarizes it, and then I get a feed of tweet size messages with the links in it and an engaging headline, so that if I want to repost something and comment on it, I can. So you can take this even further. You could have another agent in the swarm that's actually discerning which feeds, which stories, have some component to them that you want to be emphasized, and have only those come in. So there's a million ways to expand on this and interact with it.
So let's look at one that's a little bit more elaborate. So we're working our way up in complexity, right? We have an RSS data coming into an agent. The agent summarizes it as a markdown message for Telegram. Telegram shows it on the screen. And as a side effect, I can also look at it inside of Kilroy in a terminal window inside of Kilroy. All of this runs over on a laptop on my desktop, whose job right now is to do nothing but be my news feed. So here's one that's more complicated. I've shown it 3 times now because I keep clicking the wrong tab. This one is a fully functional Telegram bot, right? This is an agent that runs in Telegram, a Telegram bot that talks to Kilroy in real time, sends messages from the users in Telegram into Kilroy. It's processed through these 2 blue AI boxes here, and the results are then sent back to Telegram for the user. Now, this is a kind of an advanced leapt to the end game here on Kilroy's AI functionality, but this is a really advanced model because it's got the ability for the user to change on the fly what the system prompts are and change the behavior of the LLM using Telegram bot commands. So instead of just having one persona or one system prompt, and that's how this is going to work, you can see that there are several commands that are supported. And if you look closely there's a command called /persona. There's one for /help, and there's one for /reset. And those are all hooked into this big swarm of nodes to do the things that you would expect. So instead of looking at that and trying to decompose it, let me just show you how it works. Who am I talking to? So it's going to go over and I guess I'm in pirate persona. I didn't realize that. So let me reset that again and let you see what's really going on. We'll hide these guys and hide this guy and bring back the TechBot and show you. This one has lots of pieces, and out of the box, it just has a generic persona. But because I was playing with this before we got on the call, it had switched into Sea Captain mode. And so if we just ask it, well, what are the things that I can do? Right? There's the normal response that you get. And you can see in the background here in Kilroy with all these other windows open, you can watch these lights, these blinky lights go off, which will basically give you some indication of the work that's getting done by the various agents along in the pipeline. I'll shrink this down a little bit so we can see them
But if you built a pipeline to send out or distribute to other people, which is something you can do on our network, then you can make it so they don't see any of that. They just see the primary interface, or see nothing and only see it in Telegram.
So you can ask, it knows about itself and it knows its own commands. So I can ask it things about how do I do different stuff. But if I just tell it the persona is Karen, and have it switch over to that. So okay, now Karen persona is active, you lose her. Let me reset it so it forgets the sea captain stuff. And you need to leave our store immediately. And of course she's going to yell back, right? So with just commands in Telegram, I've completely reconfigured the pipeline to have a different system prompt, a different persona, to change who I'm talking to. And it didn't change the pipeline, right? We didn't have to change the topology. We changed the configuration of the nodes in the pipeline. That's what these red lines indicate. And in a future podcast, we'll go into more details about how to build something like this. But basically the flow is message comes in from Telegram. Is it a command? If it's a command, go down here to the command processors and decide what to do. Was it the reset command? Send a reset command off to the AI. Was it a help command? Then ask for help and put that back out to the user. If it was one of the persona commands, it comes in up here and it changes to either the pirate, the baby, or the Karen, and changes the system prompt in here. And if you looked at the system prompt in the thing as it's running right now, which we can do, we can go back over here real quick and ask it to show us the system prompt, which says you're an angry middle-aged woman who is never happy and always wants to speak to the manager, always respond to the user in character. If I go back to Telegram and change it to be the baby persona, right? And then we go back up here and look at the setting for the system prompt. Now it's you're a baby, always respond to the user in character. So behind the scenes, the commands from Telegram are reconfiguring Kilroy on the fly. This could be commands to start up new agents. Kilroy can self-modify these pipelines. It can add in new agents. It can change the swarms that it's talking to. It can change the system prompts. It can rewire itself on the fly based on user input or input from the outside world. Really and truly, it's sort of Skynet in a box, right, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really important thing to emphasize here, is that we're at the point with this ability to create these pipelines where a user can you'd be able to structure these things so that when an agent needs more capability, it can actually create that capability, right? So
and the really cool thing is this doesn't have to all be running on your machine, right? If you look back at this diagram, all of these different swarms, any one of these swarms could be shared with other Kilroy users out in the wild internet, and their agents could respond, right? So I could have a bot that interacts with a bot that's running on Brad's desktop and gives me some answers back. And we literally don't have to do anything but coordinate on what is the name of the swarm that we're going to use to talk through. You could have a 100-person chat room built on top of this with AI trading strategies for cryptocurrencies that you are watching with your crypto bros.
Right. And the agents can be working together and collaborating to refine and improve different trading strategies. You could have trading contests where agents are trading against each other, and whatever one wins, people can access and utilize for their own trading strategies. This can be on centralized exchanges. This can be in DeFi. And the other thing I wanted to point out to everybody is that the integration with Telegram is not unique. This interaction and integration could happen in Telegram. It can happen in Discord. It could happen in text messages. There really is no.
We've got it working in Minecraft, right?
Yeah, we have it working in Minecraft, right? So we built a plugin of Kilroy into Minecraft, and you can actually interact and control the Minecraft environment via Kilroy. So you could then have AI agents that are building in Minecraft. You can have all kinds of things happening. The key is that the interface is irrelevant, and so it can go to wherever a user wants to live. It doesn't have to live within the Kilroy interface. It doesn't have to live within Telegram. It can be whatever your company or your team or your group wants to utilize as a UI. And there's nothing stopping you from creating brand new UIs that function and live inside of Kilroy. And there's nothing stopping you from integrating any API that exists in the world into Kilroy. If there's a webhook, if there's a way to interconnect to it, you can build a module within Kilroy and you can now make it available to agents. So maybe you have a company that has services that you want people to be able to utilize to order pizzas all over the world. You can do that. You may have games that you want people to be able to interact with in a swarm and have thousands of players automatically playing and competing against each other. There really is no limit to it. And that's actually one of our biggest problems with talking about Kilroy.
And I think, Brad, the key thing to take away from this is that this is a completely novel way to put together LLMs and agents and cooperating human users with the real world services. Nobody has done this particular swarm-based, peer-to-peer, completely decentralized AI model. Yeah, you can call tools from ChatGPT, and you can have MCP as your tool calling interface to get to all sorts of services. And you pretty much have to be an expert programmer to get all the interfaces lined up and the glue code written and the pipeline built. And the pipeline's very static and it does what it does. In Kilroy, any user that can draw a picture like this by dragging blocks onto the screen and connecting the lines together can make a pipeline that does more than you can do with the current tooling that's sort of state of the practice out there in the internet.
Yeah, and I think let's carry that over into crypto, kind of our originating world, right? The really cool, one of the really powerful and the things that attracted me to crypto from the beginning was understanding composability, understanding the ability for components of financial services and crypto tools to be made accessible and available to other protocols, right? So a lending protocol might utilize a swapping protocol within their interface or whatever. But that requires you to be a Solidity programmer, right? But as we drop in modules for DeFi protocols into this platform, now users in this AI interface or in the regular app interface can make use of those to build new agents, new applications, new pipelines that make use of all kinds of protocols in DeFi on chain. The other thing that this solves for crypto is one of the biggest holes we have in the goal of decentralizing money is that all of our interfaces in DeFi are on the web. And so there is a centralized server and there is a registered domain that are susceptible to attack. And that has happened to the tunes of millions and millions of dollars being stolen from domains getting hacked and being taken over and to servers being hacked. This eliminates that problem because you can now interact directly with a smart contract on a decentralized UI and build a UI that's easy for a user to use without them having to visit a website ever to interact with a protocol. And now you can have these interconnected protocols within Kilroy that allow you to do all kinds of really powerful things and make it work. And as one more side note, one of the things built into Kilroy is, and the reason we're probably going to have our own layer 2 or 3 for Kilroy is that the apps can be stored as NFTs. And so you can actually distribute applications in this network and licenses in this network in NFTs and enable people to easily use the app store that way and access apps, because all of the apps in Kilroy are essentially text files. They're JSON. So the engine recognizes and understands the commands that drive it from a JSON file, but we don't require this huge installation paradigm that we're all used to on our applications on our computers. There's no executable to install. These are really simple and easy and fast to install applications.
So, all right, we've used up our 30 minutes.
All right. So if you happen to watch this, I don't think we're going to have a lot today, but if you happen to, and you're someone that doesn't mind getting your hands a little dirty, we're looking for folks that want to experiment with Kilroy, try it out, install it on their machines, and help us knock off some of the rough edges, build integrations into the platform, and start building pipelines and agents that other people can utilize. There will be a revenue stream available for these that will be a part of the entire Kilroy platform. But we're really looking for people that can see the power of what this can do and are interested in helping to build it out further. And there's a lot of opportunities within what we're trying to build and where we're going with this thing, that if you're interested, DMs are available on Farcaster, on X, Telegram. I'm B05 Crypto. Chuck, you're C Schotten, correct, on all those platforms? Yep, I'm B05 on Farcaster, B05 Crypto on everything else. So if you're interested, you'd like to play with this, you want to be an early adopter, you want to learn more about it, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to add more people utilizing this.
And tune in next time for some details on how you really make these things rather than just looking at scary pictures. We're going to go through the build process for pipelines and for Kilroy apps and how it works under the hood, so that by the end of this, you should be a pro.
That's excellent. I love it. All right, I'm going to end the stream. I hope everybody has a great day.
See you guys. Thanks, Brad.
See ya.